Hi everyone, welcome back to my next video. Well, we're still talking about staying warm in the cold. That's hard to do for some people in your car, your SUV, or even your van. In my ambulance, it's much easier because it's pretty darn well insulated. It stays warm pretty nicely. Of course, the more insulation you have, whatever your vehicle, the better off you are. The smaller it is, the easier it is to insulate. But the harder it is to run a heater. A smaller vehicle like a car, you can't hardly run a heater inside it because you don't have the clearances. Even the small buddy requires 30 inches above it. Well, it's hard to put the small buddy in your car and have 30 inches above it. And you got to keep those clearances. So it's difficult for a smaller vehicle, SUVs, minivans even, to have the heater inside. Recently, we've all kind of fallen in love with the cheap Chinese diesel heaters. They really are pretty fantastic. They're cheap. Uh, for a lot of people, they work reliably and well. One of the problems with the diesel heaters is the install. And a lot of us can't do it ourselves. And so you're going to end up paying someone. So while the diesel heater is cheap, the installation can be really expensive. And so what all is involved? Well, with just the diesel heaters, they're going to be, the unit isn't very big. You can find a place to mount it, even under the seats sometimes, the front seats. But it's not hard to find a place to mount the actual heater. It's pretty easy. But on the outside somewhere, you've got to mount the diesel fuel tank. Then you've got to run the line from the diesel fuel tank into the unit. You're going to have to drill a hole or get that diesel line in somehow. And then once you've attached the diesel fuel coming in, you have to have an exhaust pipe outlet. So you're going to drill another hole somewhere, either straight down, which is risky in itself, or straight out a pipe. And then you run your pipe out and you exhaust. That's the key thing that makes the diesel heaters so safe is the exhaust is going outside. And big plus, the moisture is going outside with the exhaust. So you're not building up moisture, you're not building up carbon monoxide, you're safer, you're more comfortable. The diesel heaters are great. But you've cut at least 2 holes in, and then you have an intake, and a lot of people are going to run their intake outside, although you can make an argument that your intake should be inside. But a lot of people, the reason you would want it on the inside instead of the outside is because it's drawing in warm air. So the heater doesn't have to heat cold air, it's heating already warm air. But then you are recirculating the air inside, and if you've got a tightly sealed vehicle, that can be dangerous in itself, and so you're going to have to open ventilation so that you can recirculate that air through the heater. At any rate, a lot of people are then cutting a hole for an intake. So you have an intake hole, you have an exhaust hole, you have a diesel fuel line hole. Well, that's cutting 3 holes. It's mounting the thing, it's putting it all together and doing it all right. And for a lot of you, that's just too much. And by the time you've paid someone, you might have paid a lot of money to get that done. Uh, all the diesel heaters have a problem with quality control. They actually are surprisingly good units in themselves, but you've heard of a lot of people who got them with a bad this and a bad that. And then all they had to do was replace this and it worked fine, and replace that and it worked just fine. So the quality control, the durability, those things are suspect, but that's true of all Chinese diesel heaters. So the big problem for a lot of us is mounting the fuel tank outside and the intimidation factor of the install, either paying for it or doing it ourselves. Well, there is now out a portable diesel heater, which is an all-in-one unit, kind of like in a suitcase. It really is quite similar to a suitcase. The fuel tank is mounted inside. It's a gallon. It has a gallon tank mounted inside, and it's completely self-contained. So you can just put the heater inside and then duct your pipes out, only 2, because now you have the exhaust and the intake. But again, I would be very inclined to just leave the intake inside so I'm recirculating air. But you've saved 1 entrance and 1 mount. You're not mounting, or you're not having to find a place to mount that diesel tank outside. It's contained in the unit. So I thought this was a brilliant idea. Now, another way to do it, and I think this might be the one that a lot of people are going to be doing, is because it's totally portable. It's kind of a suitcase. You take this outside, and then you buy a longer hose. It doesn't come with a very long hose. You buy a longer hose, and you run the hose inside. It's just one hose. You could even just run it through a window and then close off. Say you roll down a window enough to get a 3-inch pipe in it. And you can just set this thing outside. You have no fear. And if, for a lot of us, fear is the biggest issue. You're burning a diesel. You could spill the diesel. You can cut the hose. It can just malfunction and pour out carbon monoxide. If the whole thing is in a suitcase, literally kind of a metal suitcase, and is outside, you're risk-free. Everything's going on outside. None of it's going on inside. All you're doing is piping in the heat. Well, these are very popular with the guys, the overland guys, the off-roading guys in rooftop tents, because how do you have heat in a rooftop tent? It's just a tent. It needs heat. And if you're going out an extended period of time, you got to have heat. But if you're in a car, same thing. This goes outside. All that comes in is a hose. So there are some real advantages. They're the exact same heater, just mounted in a case, and then everything else comes with it to make it work. So I think this could be a real solution. The problem is the size, but a lot of the size is the 1-gallon tank because it's mounted inside the suitcase. You're going to mount that somewhere. Okay, enough talk. Let's cut this thing open and see what it looks like. And of course, like all this Chinese stuff, there's a couple, 3 Chinese factories that are making these, and they just mass produce them. And any company can buy them and put it under their names, so they're all going to come with weird names. So the name of this one is HCALORY. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means, but that's the name of this company. You can find this exact unit under a dozen different names and under many different prices. I paid $180 for this. Now you're usually going to pay $120, $130, $150 at the upper end. For just a regular diesel heater that is everything goes outside. It's just a diesel heater. It's not in a case of any kind. So let's take a look at what's in here. It's got a muffler. This is a little muffler that goes to the exhaust. And I have to, pretty nice manual. That's actually quite a, of course it's all different languages, but it's a much nicer manual. I'd have to look at it to see how the English from Chinese translation is. That is usually a very weak point. But it looks like that's one of the best manuals I've ever seen in anything from China. What's going to come out of here? Things are falling. Oh, they're falling fast. Okay. And so this is, I think, a filter, fuel filter. I'm not sure of that. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really done much research into them. I believe this is a filter. I don't know, but we'll find out. Here's the remote control. Like I said, it comes with a little remote control. If you're in your rooftop tent, it's out on the ground. You can just use that. Or if you're in your car, you can just look out the window at it and change temperatures. The outlet pipe, I would assume, yep, I would guess. This is the outlet pipe. It's very short. Inside it is these are very short pipes. This is the exhaust, because the exhaust is coming out very, very hot, of course. And there it is. It does run a fan. It is blowing, so you do have to have electricity. You have to factor in the electricity use. On the front, this is the heat output. You can see this. This is actually just the exact same diesel heater you buy. You buy a cheap Chinese diesel heater with any brand name, you're buying this heater. It's exactly the same. All they've added is the case that holds it in one unit. The disadvantage is now you have to find room to store this. I think most of us can do that, but that's the big disadvantage. And of course, the quality. You know, that's always a question with these cheap Chinese things. Some people have great luck. They get them, they work forever. Some people get them and this is bad and that's bad and they get a new one. And up here is the diesel tank. You just pour your diesel in here. If you get a cargo carrier and you carry this in the cargo carrier, you will never have diesel inside your rig. To my mind, that's a really big plus. So this is the thermostat. It has its own thermostat. If it's inside, you can just set the thermostat. And of course, if it's outside, you can't. That's why you get the remote control, so that if it's outside, it's intended to be used outside. And so the outlet, and then back, it has a fan to cool. It has to cool off, and it is 12 volt. And so you are going to have to provide power. I don't know exactly the draw on it. So it's all going to depend on your temperature. I mean, if it's 40 degrees and this whole thing only comes on once every couple of hours and runs for 10 minutes, your draw is going to be very little. Your diesel use is going to be very little. But on the other hand, if it's 20, 30 below, this thing runs virtually constantly, your power draw is going to be very high, and your electric draw, 12 volt, and your diesel consumption is going to be pretty high too. I'll give you more information as we test it. It has latches here, and I can't get my fingernails under there, barely. And so here's the unit. And it's pretty clean. You know, this is just standard. This is a universal, and they're all the same. Here's the 1 gallon tank. It's got this is probably a filter. No, this is the pump. So the pump is built in. So it's really very, very straightforward. Oh, this is just plopping around here. Shouldn't mount it at all. Okay. The hoses exit out the bottom. Oh, yeah, that one goes over there. That one fits over. Good. And then you'd use a hose clamp, which I'm not assembling this. I'm just playing with it. But that's kind of the idea. And how about that? Oh, yeah, that goes right on there. And then I have my hose clamps and hose clamp them on. I'm done. It's just that simple. However, what I've seen is that it's hard to get this bend. There's not much room here. That's about an inch, maybe an inch and a half. They're really simple. And that's one of the really good things about them is they are really, really simple. And then, of course, this goes up here. This is a 3-inch pipe, and you would have your hose clamp on it. Now, that doesn't even, that's it. That's the length. So I've already ordered another 8-foot pipe. Well, that's it. That's the whole shooting match. Okay, that was it. We got her all reassembled, and I think the actual assembly, getting it ready to run and fire it off and working should be fairly straightforward. I'll do all this in future videos and show you what's coming up. I think this could be a solution for a lot of people for how to get heat. Uh, you know, it's not a stealth city type of things if you set this outside. If you put it inside, well, I think they're kind of noisy. I think the diesel heaters, the fan, the pulling it in, the exhaust, the smell. I think that they're not really stealthy, but for everyone else, I think this might be a good solution uh, for the problem of the fear of the diesel heater on the inside. Doesn't have to be inside. Just the diesel heaters themselves that you mount somewhere, usually under the bed, under a seat somewhere, and then everything goes on the outside. Those are going to cost you usually around $130, $140. The prices are wild, vary on all the manufacturers. So this one was 180, and that was at the high end of the price. The high end of just the units, not in a case of any kind. That's going to at the high end's about 150, $20 more. At the low end, you're getting them for maybe 125, 130, 140. So you're going to pay more, but you're getting the case. You're getting the self-contained. To me, I think I like this a lot better if you have a fear of these things. Having the diesel inside your rig, the the difficulty of the install, this might be something to really consider. So we will test this. We'll let you know what we think. We'll fire it up. Lots more videos to come on this. So far, I'm very impressed. I think this might be a good solution for a lot of you for all the reasons I have already said many, many times, and I will not say them again. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope this is a possibility to make your life better, that your nomadic life will be more fulfilling and satisfying to you, that your life will be improved by the things I